We'll see you there. It's Daniel Wong on the Ramping Turns deck with the sideboard plan into cats. And he's going up against Mitchell Tamblyn on Grixis midrange, something a little bit more conventional, but I cannot get enough of this Ramping Turns deck.
Yeah, and these are the last two undefeated players in the room. You might expect the round 11 last two undefeateds match to be something like Teferi deck, or a traditional Teferi deck against red-black, but you would be wrong because we've got this Ramping Turns deck that transforms into a cat tribal deck. And it's playing against Grixis midrange, which is by no means something you see regularly.
So we have got just some tapped lands entering the battlefield, irrigated farmlands joining that Hinterland Harbor, and it's a Sulphur Falls for Tamblyn. Grixis midrange, now this is a deck that really capitalized on having Nicol Bolas in the deck and some of the synergies between that, Liliana, the Scarab God.
Yeah, just a whole bunch of powerful cards. And he's playing a lot of one-ofs here, and some really interesting one-ofs, too. I see cards like Isareth, the Awakener, a singleton copy of Champion of Wits, a Whirler Virtuoso. This is a Grixis deck that has a lot of options, and it has a lot of velocity, meaning that you're able to see a lot of the cards in your deck very quickly and choose which cards match up just right for a particular situation.
We see Fetid Pools is cycled, and looks like the cards left in hand are Sulphur Falls, so those are actually going to have to enter the battlefield tapped. I do see a copy of Sweltering Suns in hand, as well as a Rekindling Phoenix, a Nicol Bolas, and Doomfall. So all very good cards. The nice thing about Sweltering Suns is that it also cycles, so even in a matchup like this, where it will not be a relevant card, it's still able to transform itself into another one off the top of the deck.
Absolutely. Traditionally, these slower matchups, when playing against these Grixis decks, a deck that plays a card like Our Promise should be pretty heavily favored here. So Daniel Wong, finding himself this deep in the tournament, probably pretty happy to be playing against a matchup like this right now.
It's going to be just another land for Wong and to Tamblyn, untapping that Canyon Slough, which had to enter the battlefield tapped. That does mean that we now have a mountain on the battlefield for either this Dragon Skull Summit or this Sulphur Falls, and we might be looking at a Rekindling Phoenix this turn, potentially also the Nicol Bolas. Looks like we are going to line that one up, and it's time to find out. It's going to be Rekindling Phoenix that starts things off. The 4/3 Owl Phoenix. A wreath of flames around it, and it is ready to rumble. That art, I can't get over it.
It's just gorgeous.
Really just phenomenally done. It's off to Daniel Wong's turn. It's going to be the 5th mana. This has been sort of the situation which, and we see it in hand, Teferi might be joining the party, and we have not seen any action from Daniel yet in this game. This is going to be his first play of the game. It's on turn 5, and he's still at 20. How often do you have that luxury?
Not very often.
And actually, I see a Nexus of Fate in hand, which means that next turn we could be looking at firing off using that Teferi Plus ability. If Teferi is still around, still alive, which is likely, I don't see a Vraska's Contempt in Tamblyn's hand currently, then we could be firing off a Nexus of Fate as soon as next turn. We're going to go ahead and use that Teferi to get rid of that Phoenix. It's now hidden in the library. We're going to go ahead and get the card draw. Now there is a Doomfall in hand for Mitchell Tamblyn. There's going to be a decision point here as far as, do you cast this card? Do you try and put down some pressure in the form of Nicol Bolas? What's the decision point here?
So I think what Mitchell would want most here is some type of haste creature to apply pressure, maybe a Glory Bringer. That way he can get the Teferi off the table while also advancing his own board state. If he doesn't have that kind of option, if he can't get this Teferi off the table, then I think the most important thing is to develop a board presence. You really don't want to pass the turn without something on the table when your opponent is untapping with a Teferi.
And it looks like Tamblyn might be agreeing with you, just realigning his mana. Oh, and he does have the Vraska's Contempt. That Teferi is going to exile. We're going to gain 2 life on Tamblyn's side of the battlefield. And Daniel Wong is going to have to try another way to get this Nexus of Fate. It's not going to happen this turn. He's got 2 copies in hand, though, and an Hour of Promise in hand. That's going to be 5 mana, and that is going to accelerate him all the way up to having 8 mana available next turn. Nexus of Fate, I think he's got 2 copies in hand. He could pass the turn at the end of this one. and then suddenly he is really looking to untap. Maybe there's no pressure on Tamblin's side of the battlefield, and his next turn cycle that we'll see, he could be taking 3 turns consecutively if that's what he thinks is the best play.
Yeah, and I mean, usually taking an extra turn is one of the best things you can be doing. You obviously get a significant advantage if you already have a planeswalker on the battlefield, but even if you don't, these zombies are applying pressure. You're drawing additional cards. You're shuffling those Nexus of Fates back into your deck, meaning that your draw steps become more powerful.
Mm-hmm. 5 mana right now for Tamblin. It's 2 zombies on the battlefield. Hour of Promise able to search up 2 lands. 2 of them are deserts, which means that we now do have that requirement. 3 deserts on the battlefield or in the graveyard means that Hour of Promise will give you a little bit of military presence.
Yes. And in game 1, these zombies are Daniel Wong's only route to victory, although when we've been watching, his main route to victory has been his opponent conceding.
It's a strong strategy, you know? It's really simple to win a game if your opponent just isn't there anymore. We're going to fire off this Doomfall, take a look at 2 Nexus of Fate, and a Settle the Wreckage. We'll go ahead and grab a card count from the hand, but 2 options. Exiling one of these Nexus of Fate, it is going to be gone from the game for good. You know, a lot of these things like a Duress would put it into the graveyard, and of course Nexus of Fate does say that if it would be put into the graveyard from anywhere, you then shuffle it back into the library. But because you are going to be exiling this card out of Daniel Wong's hand, that is going to mean that he will permanently only have access to 3 copies of Nexus of Fate.
Yeah, and I mean that there's some redundancy here. I don't think Daniel is too worried about losing that first copy.
At a certain point, if you're drawing enough cards and you've got 3 of them, you're still likely to find it, but we are going to lose that Nexus of Fate down to just those singular in hand. And it is going to be another copy of Doomfall that eliminates the other. So now it is just Settle the Wreckage and these 2 zombies. But they are the best presence on the battlefield. They're the only presence on the battlefield. It's 4 power crashing on in. Doomfall, really a nice card there for Tamblin. Nicely timed, fires off 2 of them in a row, and I mean, if there's a time to do it, making right before Daniel Wong is about to take 3 turns back to back.
Yeah, I mean that was great. The double Doomfall there, it significantly weakens Daniel's deck. It makes his planeswalkers worse. A really nice play there from Mitchell.
There's the Nikobolas. We're gonna have to discard a card. Looks like Daniel Wong might have a response.
It looks like he drew Commit Memory, so he's going to get to commit this, and he has fewer cards left in his hand also, so this memory half of Commit Memory may also be very powerful for Daniel Wong here.
So that's going to go ahead and be 1 card underneath the top of the library with that Rekindling Phoenix is back in hand for Tamblin, so he's got that option next turn as well, and it's going to be a land for Daniel Wong. At this stage in the game, he's got very few options in hand, and even firing off that memory, going up to 7 cards, he gets 1 additional card out of the deal, and he would still have a little bit of mana remaining.
Yeah, I think he's absolutely going to go for the memory at this point.
Not certain about many other options that are existing in the graveyard at the moment. Certainly his hand, Settle the Wreckage, doesn't do just about anything on this board. There's the attack in for 4 once more. Tamblin is going to end up at 14 after this brief and uneventful exchange.
Yeah.
It's just some zombies walking on over. A little tap. I think we are lining up the mana here. We do also have the Scavenger Grounds. There is the Rivulet, which is going to be able to put cards into the graveyard eventually as an option. A little bit of versatility. It works nicely with the Search for Escanta.
Yeah, it works nicely with the Search for Escanta. It's also a win condition. So Daniel Wong can conceivably mill out an opponent.
Memory here coming down, and that is going to be responded to by Tamblin in a Braid, eliminating one of those zombies. You're going to lose the cards anyway. You're going to have to draw a new 7, fire it down while you've got the mana. You're going to get to untap with whatever it is that you draw, and it's going to be just the 2/2 that is left on the field. Daniel Wong going to be drawing 7, and he'll still have 3 mana to work with. He's got quite a few options. Anything like a Gift of Paradise would be reasonable. Even a Spring to Mind would also put one of these Aftermath cards back into his graveyard. That would allow him to draw more cards in the future. Yep, drawing 7 cards, always a good ability.
Yeah. And he has more lands than his opponent, so in theory, that means he's going to be able to use these cards more effectively.
It is going to be that Gift of Paradise. Daniel Wong is going to go up to 23. I did see a Seal Away in this hand as well, so more options if the Rekindling Phoenix or eventually that Nicol Bolas were to come down to the battlefield as well. Mitchell Tamblyn drawing his own copy of Commit to Memory.
Yeah, that's a big mana commitment at this point, though, leaving open that 4 mana. So Mitchell's hand just got completely filled up. He's going to want to play out these cards as much as he can. His big numbers in terms of the cards he's trying to cast are 4s, and he's going to have access to 7 mana this turn. And it looks like he also has a Glint Sleeve Siphoner, so he's probably going to get to use 6 of his 7 mana. But yeah, Daniel Wong definitely going to have an opportunity to do a lot more on the following turn.
Yeah, running through this, and there are quite a few options. There's the Rekindling Phoenix, which is more resilient. There's the Nicol Bolas, actually 2 copies of it in hand currently. And with Daniel Wong tapped out this turn, you know, there's no opposing mana. Really, this is the turn that Tamlin gets to put himself out onto the battlefield. And he might also be considering if he wants to hold on to anything, because I believe he's got also a copy of Vraska's Contempt, if I saw that correctly. Possibly I didn't. To where he might also be considering just running out the Glint Sleeve Siphoner and maybe backing it up with something like that Commit to Memory. But he's going to go just get presence on the board. Daniel Wong's at 23. There's no time to waste. 6 power on the board. A Phoenix, a Siphoner. With 1 energy right now after a hit next turn. Could also just start drawing some additional cards. Card right there is going to be Seal Away. I see another copy of Gift of Paradise in the hand currently.
Yes, Seal Away, a card that matches up very nicely against the Rekindling Phoenix. Of course, Mitchell can always use his own Commit to Memory to get that Seal Away off the table and to get his Phoenix back once that happens.
I see another copy of Hour of Promise in hand as well. Firing that down would get Daniel Wong another 2 zombies, and it would also just give him quite a bit. I mean, his mana advantage would continue, more accurately.
Yeah, and in addition to that, it would also allow him to search his library for Archer Varazka, and he already has the City's Blessing. So in doing so, he would find himself in a situation where he was drawing multiple cards a turn and had a mana advantage, and in a longer game against a mid-range opponent, that's exactly where you want to be.
All right, and we are going to see this Hour of Promise, so the card to look out for is going to be Archer Varazka. Once that comes down, it's going to be very difficult for Tamblyn to outpace that level of card draw. Also, 2 more zombies. There's that Arch coming down to the battlefield. So, I guess the only requirement now is that he's got enough mana to invest into it. I think he'll manage.
I agree. It's also worth noting that Daniel Wong is applying a lot of threat of activation with the deserts that he has in play. The Hashep Oasis and the Shafet Dunes are both representing quite a bit of damage. So he's kind of forcing Mitchell Tamblyn to stay on a defensive game plan. And that's just going to buy him a ton of time. And time is what you want when you have Archer Varazka.
True, an attack all out with both this Phoenix as well as the Glint Sleeve Siphoner. The Siphoner is kind of questionable if it'll attack into all these zombies. Does mean that any turn, Daniel Wong could just fire this one up. The Hashep Oasis +1/+1 to your entire board. That would mean it's an attack in for 9, leaving Tamblyn only at 5. There is also that Ibnu Rivulet that is hanging out. And yeah, Hashep Oasis is +3/+3.
There's also a Scavenger Grounds on the board, so we could see that come up as an answer to this Rekindling Phoenix.
Remove the Rekindling Phoenix and then exile the graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. All right, Tamlin's got a bit of a decision to make. Taking a look at this mana base, what did we grab? There's a lot of land to look at, and it looks like Tamlin might be running through those same scenarios that you were. You know, what lands are there? What do I need to play around? What could potentially come back and get me if I leave myself open to a backswing, if I leave myself open to some sort of retaliation from Daniel Wong by just overplaying into what appears to be a safe board. But those lands, they've got secrets.
Yeah, and there you see Hashep Oasis, and that's the card that's really representing so much damage here. The fact that Daniel Wong has multiple copies of that on the battlefield means that he can activate both of those, sacrifice other deserts, just some of the random deserts he happens to have on the battlefield, and threaten lethal pretty much out of nowhere.
Do you think Daniel's going to bring in the cats?
I think his opponent is probably looking to sideboard out most of their spot removal and would get super duper duper punished by the cat strategy. So yeah, I think Daniel Wong, he's playing a glint sleeve siphoner deck, in which case I think that's exactly when he wants to be on cats.
We're going to cycle an irrigated farmland. We did take the hit from this Rekindling Phoenix, and we are going to end up discarding a card to this Nicol Bolas. It's going to be a basic Plains. We actually drew into another copy of Seal Away. I think there might be 3 copies in Daniel Wong's hand right now. Exiles a tapped creature underneath it, which means that Rekindling Phoenix can be taken at any time, at least during this turn. We've got another copy of Irrigated Farmland in hand. A lot of options to actually just interact with this board. And with the zombies, could actually start getting aggressive with them if there's any way to get this Nicol Bolas off the battlefield. But
yeah, I imagine we're going to see him swing with all 3 zombies here. He doesn't want to see this Nicol Bolas flip. That could be quite a problem for him, so he's definitely wanting to cast this Fumigate this turn. And it's kind of a free attack to do it before you. So he's just going to go ahead, and he figured his opponent's just going to block anyway. Casting this Fumigate.
So that's going to destroy every creature on the board for 5 mana, and we're going to gain a life for each one of them that is destroyed. I guess there is the benefit also that Daniel Wong is going to go up to 29, even if there were the trades or those removals, then he would really be losing out on individual life points, which maybe will end up mattering as this game potentially goes long, and there are some of those really aggressive dragons at the top end. And Daniel Wong might be prioritizing each little point of life as a way to dig further into, maybe that means a turn later in the game.
Absolutely. And the thing we talked about earlier with the Scavenger Grounds interaction between it and Rekindling Phoenix, we get to see that in action where Daniel Wong's Fumigate gets that Rekindling Phoenix off of the battlefield, goes to the graveyard, and then the Scavenger Grounds is able to exile the graveyard, preventing the Rekindling Phoenix from coming back on the following turn.
So it's 8 mana on the side of Mitchell Tamblyn. It's going to be 4 mana. The backup Nicol Bolas is going to come down, and we're just going to discard. Oh, we're going to actually cycle this Irrigated Farmland, get more information before we know, and there is Spring to Mind in hand. Could discard that one. It just becomes 6 mana, draw 2 cards later. And it looks like that is going to be the case. Firing that one down as the discard. It's a 4/4 flyer on the battlefield. 7 mana from Tamblyn will transform that into Nicol Bolas, the Arisen.
And that's terrifying for Daniel Wong. A Planeswalker is really one of the best things against Daniel Wong's deck. Once that Planeswalker flips, it's a lot harder for Daniel Wong to interact with it. Mitchell can start just plussing it, drawing 2 cards a turn. The other things that on there, you look at those abilities, it's kind of absurd.
10 damage to a creature or a Planeswalker. There's not a whole lot of that, but that's just an absurd number.
Yeah. So, yeah. Daniel, this is what he didn't want to happen, and this was, this is the reason why he wanted his deck to have a proactive game plan post sideboard. Daniel was really hoping to stick a Teferi of his own and start chaining things like Nexus of Fate, the double Doomfall, taking those Nexus of Fates, and Daniel just never drawing a Teferi this game have made this game play out in such a way that he's really just under the gun here with an opponent having a Planeswalker that might just get completely out of hand, and his deck doesn't have the right suite of answers. He needs to deal with it.
Yeah, his mana base is all dressed up, but it's got nowhere to go. He fires back that Spring to Mind, going for the Mind portion of it, draws 2 cards, and his entire deck, he's got Sealaways, he's got Settle the Wreckages, and none of those are good answers to this untapped Nicol Bolas. And Mitchell Tamblyn, might decide to go for the swing that appears free. But if he's looking at that 3 open mana, and if he's, paying attention that this is a deck that has got Seal Away, has got Settle the Wreckage, might just immediately opt to go for that Nicol Bolas the Arisen. That, of course, does require that he will not be playing any other cards this turn, though.
I think it's worthwhile. Just flip. And even if you do attack, you threaten to flip and kind of block the Seal Away, if you will, by making Nicol Bolas the Ravager no longer a creature.
If I remember it, I think it actually might be as a sorcery only.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think you're actually right, in which case this was a pretty big misstep here by Mitchell.
And if this Nicol, well, there is still the commit to memory. Oh, is there still the commit to memory in hand?
You're right.
Was
It is sorcery only. I'm sorry.
because
Misremembered.
if there is still a commit to memory in hand, that might have gotten shuffled away previously. But I do think I see one. Could actually try and get rid of this one. There is only the 1 mana remaining, which means that this would hit. But then you would not have the 7 mana required to actually transform it. So we are just going to lose Nicol Bolas. That's off the battlefield, and it's Liliana Death's Majesty that's going to come down for Tamlin. This actually doesn't even seem that devastating because, again, Daniel Wong's answers in hand completely misalign with this Liliana Death's Majesty.
Absolutely. So Daniel Wong, again, his deck is weak to Planeswalkers post-board, but a Liliana Death's Majesty applies a lot less pressure than a flip Nicol Bolas. So right now, Daniel Wong can continue generating tons of card advantage. He has all these deserts. His deck has cards like Spring to Mind. His deck has cards like Archer Varazka. And he can just continue rifling through his deck. Eventually, he's going to find a Teferi, which he'll be able to protect with, the pile of Settle the Wreckages that he's currently sitting on. And he could conceivably take this game back. So being able to seal away that Nicol Bolas was extremely important here for Daniel Wong.
We've tried to forsake the worldly and Spring to Mind. This is going to be yet another copy of this card. He keeps looking for the Teferi, and he keeps coming away with this card. He's going to spend the 3 mana. He's going to look for a land, and next turn he's going to take another shot at drawing multiples of these cards. Look at how dense the remainder of this deck is, though, in cards that he's really looking for.
Oh, yeah, there are very, very few cards that Daniel Wong would be upset to draw at this point. Which is funny. I mean, there's a lot of redundancy, but Mitchell just is dealing with an opponent who's at 29, who has all the time in the world and all the card draw in the world.
Think for a moment, remember those 2 Doomfalls at the beginning of this? This is still, the same game in which 2 Doomfalls came down and eliminated both Nexus of Fate, and that was enormous. Tamlin has been able to continue to grind. No more Nexus of Fate entering into play. Not a single Teferi to be seen. Tamlin using those 2 Doomfalls back-to-back may have just been a massive swing because even having only 2 copies of that Nexus of Fate, we haven't seen any more copies get drawn. They aren't floating around in the, throughout the library with the same density.
That's true.
We're going to cycle this Forsake the Worldly. It's the Scarab God coming down to the battlefield. We're going to plus up this Liliana, make another zombie, and now there's 9 power on the battlefield, plus the threat of activation from the Scarab God at the upkeep of Tamlin. Daniel Wong's got to find something this turn. We do have the Teferi in hand. There is a Fumigate that does not answer the Scarab God, it answers the zombies. But that combined with this Teferi could start putting together some answers.
So the Fumigate actually would answer the Scarab God in conjunction with the Scavenger Grounds.
Great point.
But the Teferi by itself kind of just takes the game over here. He has double Gift of Paradise. He can just start plussing this Teferi. The Teferi is in virtually no danger at all from being attacked by creatures because of the number of Settle the Wreckages that Daniel Wong currently has in hand. Mm-hmm. So really, Mitchell needs to have something like Vraska's Contempt to get this Teferi off the table. Otherwise, it'll just take the game over all by itself.
And I don't think there are actually any creatures in the graveyard, now that I think about it, for this Scarab God to take control of.
That's true. Yeah, the Scarab God, here it does not have targets in graveyards, and even if it did, the Scavenger Grounds that Daniel Wong has on the board with the absurd number of deserts he has, it means that Daniel Wong could do a really good job of blocking that Scarab God from using its activated ability.
Worth noting, however, that Scry and that life loss is not dependent on specifically the cards that are brought back by the Scarab God. Mm-hmm. It is dependent on the zombies that you control, and Liliana Death's Majesty is supplying them.
That's true, and that does give Mitchell a glimmer of hope that he can start chopping away, incrementally by 2, then 3, then 4, with those Scarab God triggers at the beginning of his upkeep. But he's only got so much time, and eventually this Teferi is going to get to 8 loyalty, at which point Daniel Wong will be in a great position.
There's Vraska's Contempt, and it looks like we might be firing off this Archer Varazka, looking for an answer before we decide that that's said and done. Oh, we're going to fire back Spring to Mind. Okay, so we're going to draw. I mean, it's draw 2 as opposed to draw 1. We're going to fire that one down, see if we can find an answer. I don't think I saw one.
I think specifically commit to memory is the answer that Daniel Wong needs in this spot right now.
Looks like we might be going for a cycle land here. We're going to take another shot at it. Is there a commit to memory at the top that can save this Teferi? No, but there is a backup one.
Yeah, that's just as good.
All right. Tamblin's going to go up to 16 off of that Vraska's Contempt. We do still have the Scarab God. We do still have Liliana Death's Majesty, and attacking is still a very unfortunate option for Tamblin. So with the backup Teferi in hand, Daniel Wong will still have access to at least 2 draws for the turn, and this is, of course, Archvarozka is very likely to start activating as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that Liliana's up to 8. If nothing changes next turn, there's going to be a Scry 3 and lose 3.
Ooh, so very importantly here, the Champion of Wits that just went into Mitchell Tamblin's graveyard.
Yeah.
When that's reanimated by the Scarab God, it will allow Mitchell to draw a lot of cards here. Mitchell's going to want to fire that off while Daniel's mana's tapped, and he chose not to. And this means that Daniel will now have the Scavenger Grounds up and be able to prevent that from happening. So that was really important there, that Daniel was able to have Mitchell miss that activation there on the Champion of Wits.
Yep, Scavenger Ground's going to hold that one in check, though. I wonder if maybe there's just another 4-mana option that Tamblin is holding on to as a way to maybe just prevent, like, this board is getting it done. I'm not too worried about it. Fumigate, however, is going to get fired off. This would answer that Scarab God, which means that one interesting way here is that if Tamblin tries to, the Scarab God's going to be gone, and then the Scavenger Grounds would answer both that as well as the Champion of Wits.
Yeah, so something Mitchell could do here is he could activate his Scarab God, returning that Champion of Wits before the Fumigate happens, and in doing so, he would draw the 4 cards, then discard the 2 cards, and then the Fumigate would obviously kill the Champion of Wits along with everything else. But then Mitchell doesn't get punished quite as badly by the Scavenger Grounds here.
He does still end up with that mana advantage. He still is able to put together some sort of game plan off of that, just additional cards in hand.
Absolutely. And, the Fumigate, the post-Fumigate Scavenger Grounds has to happen after the Fumigate. Otherwise, the Scarab God would come back.
All right, so that is going to resolve. We're going to leave that in the graveyard, and now Scavenger Grounds might be looking to get it done. We know about the Teferi for Daniel Wong. Now, Tamblin does not know about it, though I imagine that that is going to be coming soon. Looks like we're going to throw down a Gift of Paradise onto this island, gaining another 3 life, back up to 30. Back up to 30. What am I saying? I know.
It's true.
Daniel Wong's just been floating around with a really high life total throughout this game off of these Gift of Paradise as well as these Fumigates. It's going to be another copy of that. Also, the Search for Azcanta coming down to the battlefield. The 2-mana enchantment. At the beginning of each upkeep, you'll be taking a look at the top card. It either stays on top or it goes to the graveyard. And eventually, with enough cards in the bin, you can transform it into Azcanta, the Sunken Ruin. But that is a card that lifts your spirits.
Yeah, and that's true. So the Scavenger Grounds is, kind of fighting with this Search for Azcanta right now, preventing it from flipping over. And Azcanta, the Sunken Ruin, it's worth noting, is a card that's going to be really difficult for this Grixis mid-range deck to interact with. The Teferi that Daniel Wong will play can get hit by something like Vraska's Contempt, whereas Azcanta, the Sunken Ruin provides this really long-term, almost game-winning advantage that's nearly impossible for Mitchell's deck to interact with.
So we are seeing that Scavenger Grounds activate. It is sacrifice a desert, not sacrifice itself. So it's going to be getting rid of this Chefette Dunes to wipe the full graveyards. It does mean that you get some reusability out of that. A lot of these cards, those deserts, they'll say sacrifice a desert specifically as opposed to themselves, which is what you'll often see on these lands.
Yeah.
So the graveyards are going to go away. Search for Azcanta is going to have to wait another day to transform. I doubt that there's going to be 7 cards at the beginning of the next upkeep. And Liliana Death's Majesty stands alone, apparently trying to prevent the Search for Azcanta. No looking for it.
Yeah.
It's going to stay a mystery. All right, so we have got quite a bit of mana. Still that 8 Rekindling Phoenix in hand. A Commit to Memory in hand. That might be why we didn't see that activation. Really looking to save that. And we saw Daniel Wong maybe. He might have been sniffing it out, you know. We saw him go for the Fumigate with plenty. He'd had a backup copy of it. And then we just saw him activate, you know, a search for his Kanta, this Scavenger Grounds, but he didn't really go for that Teferi as opposed to anything else. He made sure that he just checked the boxes that he need to and went for the kind of nice incidental play in this search for his Kanta.
Yeah, it correctly identifies that Mitchell has Vraska's Contempt. Strong read there by Daniel Wong. Also worth noting, Ibnu Rivulet. I'm not sure if it's still on the battlefield, if it's been sacrificed. There's a whole lot of lands on the right side of the screen there. But
there is one at the bottom left, yeah.
Mitchell Tamblyn has been milling himself a lot with this Liliana Death's Majesty, and it is certainly possible that we find a situation wherein Daniel Wong can mill Mitchell Tamblyn to the point where he loses the game.
What a thing that would be to see.
Yeah, I mean, he could even do it out of nowhere. Using this Teferi Plus ability, he could Ibnu Rivulet twice on the same turn, milling Mitchell for 8 and winning the game out of nowhere. So a lot of like competing factors. Like Daniel Wong is currently attacking from many angles right now.
Commit to Memory pointing at that seal away that was locking up the Nicol Bolas that we saw from before. This is at the end step. Tamblyn now has the option of untapping with 8 mana, and it looks like we are going to... I think, did we just have to discard the hand? No, I don't think so.
Oh, I think the seal away was just discarded to the enter the battlefield trigger on the Nicol Bolas.
Got it. Okay, so now we will have access to that 7 mana. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. If you want to transform this one, get Nicol Bolas the Arisen, combine that one to these powerful Planeswalkers alongside a Rekindling Phoenix and a Zombie. Wow. Something to keep in mind, by the way, look up at the top in the center between those two life totals. These players have got 50 minutes to get 2 wins.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be really hard unless maybe there's just a swarm of cats.
A swarm of cats would just get it done, would it not? I've never found myself in the position where a swarm of cats would be unwelcome.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's been really strong about Daniel Wong's deck in post-boarded games is that opponents are likely sideboarding in such a way that they are particularly soft to the cat plan.
There's the attack in for 6. We do know about this Settle the Wreckage for Daniel Wong. And that's going to come down doing a little bit of an assistance. You know, you can have 2 lands. Get yourself some mana. Those aren't doing much for you.
Yeah, Mitchell's got to decide whether or not he wants to search his library here because, again, you know, we've talked about it already, but there's a definite possibility of Mitchell being milled out in this game. He still has a healthy library there. You look through it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of cards. He may have more cards than his opponent. Daniel Wong's been drawing so much.
I'd be willing to guess that Tamblyn is at least below half.
Mm-hmm.
Well below half. Maybe if I were to guess, I'd say closer to 20 than 30. But
yeah, the commit to memory definitely helped refill his library quite a bit. The fact that he shuffled all those cards back into his library changed things.
All right, so it's search for his Kanta, a just enormous amount of mana. Just unreasonable at this point. Should have put in just a Miser's Banefire into this deck. You know, why not?
Yeah.
Occasionally you can. Could probably Banefire for more than the 16 right now. In fact, almost certainly could. There's Nicol Bolas the Arisen coming down. It's got +2. Draw 2 cards. -3. 10 damage to a creature or a Planeswalker. -4 to get. You can grab a creature or a Planeswalker from the graveyard. Right now, the only option for that, however, Liliana Death's Majesty. Probably not wise, considering that he's already got that box checked. And eventually, exile all but the bottom card of target player's library. How crazy would it be if he did that last ability and the bottom card was a Nexus of Fate? That'd just be the dream, right?
For Daniel Wong?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he could win the game.
How's
Or you know, never lose the game, force a draw. That's the thing. If Daniel Wong feels like he's losing, he can. His deck has the ability to force a lot of draws, which a lot of people maybe think that that's outside of the spirit of things, but I'm of the belief that there is no spirit of things.
Not in this one. Lingering Souls, that's a different format right now. Spirit's hanging around in there, but not so much in here.
Ooh, a tight play here from Daniel Wong. We see him activate this Ipnu Rivulet to target himself. This is going to flip his search for Azcanta, and
he's counting up here because that's also a Teferi. He's going to take that one, transform. So he's saying, okay, this is going to remain on top. I'm going to draw it for the turn, but I'm also going to be transforming this search for Azcanta into Azcanta the Sunken Rune. Now we're going to see an activation of it. Take a look at the top 4, and let's see if we can find ourselves a Nexus of Fate, something to really get this engine churning. Only 2 mana untapped for Tamblyn.
Yeah, and that's what he wants right now more than anything is Nexus of Fate. If he's able to find the Nexus of Fate, then he can essentially chain Nexus of Fates forever with a Teferi, and it'll allow him to win the game, even through this seemingly brutal board on the other side. I mean, there are 2 big Planeswalkers. There's another Planeswalker in the yard that Mitchell could reanimate next turn in Chandra, Torch of Defiance. Is it a Nexus? Oh, no, it's a Commit to Memory.
Remember, by the way, that I do think we have enough mana that after untapping the Azcanta as well as this land, we might have enough to...
We're doing still Nexus?
Yes.
We do. We do.
We
do. That's pretty incredible. Wow.
End step. There it is.
There it is.
Oh, now there's only 2, but this library is... Oh.
Yeah, and the thing is the library is small enough that he now with
it's
double activation he has the infinite combo. He can eventually exile every single permanent that Mitchell Tamblyn has on the battlefield. At which point he will, just eventually win however he feels like it.
And look at this. He's describing that exact line of play, even saying, look at the Hour of Promise, that would shuffle in from my Commit to Memory. So eventually I would have access to the zombies after exiling your entire board. And then I could just get it done with the zombies. And we see Daniel Wong, the game 1 after all of that.
Yeah, and, I think the particular weakness that Daniel Wong's deck has in game 1s against these types of decks is Planeswalkers.
Yeah.
And he had to fight against a lot of Planeswalkers. The thing is that his deck is so good at buying time and just having forever that all of these small advantages that he's working through, all of these, Spring to Minds, all of these Arch of Araska activations, the Planeswalkers that come in and then force a spell to kill them while they've already drawn you a card, thus, accruing you card advantage. Over the course of time, it doesn't matter that your opponent's pressuring you in all these ways because eventually you have inevitability because Nexus of Fate is the best inevitability ever printed in Magic the Gathering. A Time Walk effect that shuffles itself back into your library means that if the game goes absolutely long enough, if you just keep pushing it longer and longer and longer, that's some type of inevitability that's essentially the best kind of inevitability.
And there were even those several turns that we saw Daniel Wong with answers that were so far off of what he needed. He was facing down those same Planeswalkers you were describing with just a grip full of Settle the Wreckage and Seal Away. And at that point, it really looked like he had very few options of actually answering this board, but his life total was extremely high after some Fumigates and some Gift of Paradise. There was not a whole lot of pressure on the opposing side of the battlefield because he had that aspect of it locked down, the part that would actually pressure his life total. And he just was able to extend this. I mean, the biggest concern right now is that we are working with 12 minutes.
Yeah, Mitchell Tamblyn has his work cut out for him. He's playing a Grixis mid-range deck, a slower strategy. He has to win 2 games in less than 12 minutes of playtime. That's going to be really hard for him to pull off here.
With shuffling, I mean, that might be just 2 5-minute wins, like really aggressive, Glint Sleeve Siphoners, trying to get it done with Nicol Bolas, something like that.
Yeah, he's got to make it happen. The thing is that in order to do that, he's going to be taking out as many reactive cards as he possibly can out of his deck. And what happens when you take out as many reactive cards as you possibly can out of your deck?
You're not going to be nearly as capable of stopping the Nexus of Fate or those Teferis.
Yeah, I was thinking that you're not going to be able to stop the wave of cats that's flying at your face.
And actually, that is going to be an interesting consideration. Let me pose this question to you. Right now, if the game were to just, if this game does not resolve, this second game, Daniel Wong comes away with the match win, with the 1-0. Would you shift away from this time walk game plan to the cats when that one deck is just so inevitable, it's so late game oriented that the time factor, like you can keep playing it, you can enact your entire game plan, but it's not a fast game plan.
I think with over 10 minutes, that's I don't think you're really thinking about timing your opponent out to win the match.
Sure.
I think that if you have a cat sideboard game plan, this a
Always bring it
great
in.
place for it. Not always, but I think that the glint sleeve siphoner, weird chain of question type of deck is exactly where you want to change to a proactive strategy. So I imagine Daniel Wong is bringing in cats here. Although you might be right, there's definitely a consideration there.
We'll have to see before.
Yeah,
when
I
he was,
really need to see the board in order to talk about what's going on.
Luckily, the way that Daniel Wong has been shuffling previously is that he was doing a little bit of shuffling to where he would face it towards this camera but not towards his opponent. And he was making it to where we have got this. And now, jumping back down into Game 2, we are at 4 lands down. Rekindling Phoenix, Glint Sleeve Siphoner, and it's 4 mana down for Daniel Wong. Not too much action yet, and it looks like you were right. That is Shalai, Voice of Plenty, diving into the field. Look at these players, by the way. A lot of quick motions. They're both aware of the situation. It's the 3-4 standing against the Rekindling Phoenix, and Glint Sleeve Siphoner is also going to swing in. It's got Menace. So no blocks whatsoever from Daniel Wong, and that is a big indicator to me that the cats are in.
Yeah, so right now, Mitchell getting off to a really aggressive start. That's exactly what he needs to do if he wants to win this match in the amount of time that's remaining. Glint Sleeve Siphoner, one of the best cards against Daniel Wong. He actually told us that card in particular was the main reason why he created this proactive sideboard plan with the cats out of his turn stack.
So it's a swing for 6, and then we're going to follow it up with Liliana, Death's Majesty. That's going to go for the plus, create a couple of cards in the graveyard, and create a zombie on the battlefield. There is that Nexus of Fate in hand for Daniel Wong, so he does still have that as an option in the deck. As he's heading into it, he'll be playing down his 5th land and seeing what he can do. The 3-4, you, planeswalkers you control, and other creatures you control have hexproof. Does not protect itself. But that's just, it's a selfless kind of card.
Yeah.
We're going to attack in at that Liliana, immediately down to 3. And I see a Fumigate in hand. It's going to be the Regal Gargoyle in hand. I love it. Let's make some cats. Let's get some lifelink on the battlefield. Daniel Wong might be down to 9, but the game's not done. The lifelinks on board and the removal spells against those cats are ineffective because they are hexproof.
Yeah, Shalai, Voice of Plenty now. Protecting this Regal Caracal, which produced 7 points of power, 4 of which have lifelink. Also, combos with additional copies of itself by just further increasing the power of the extra copy produced and the previous copy. This is something that we've seen out of Daniel Wong time and time again. And what's absolutely terrifying is that if Daniel Wong is able to get up to 7 lands and he's able to chain together multiple attack steps with this Regal Caracal, then he'll get completely out of range of that scary situation that he's currently in right now.
Yep, right now the board on the left side of the battlefield, Grixis midrange, a Rekindling Phoenix, a Glint Sleeve Siphoner, and a zombie. But the board they were looking down last turn is certainly looking a bit different. 3 new competitors on the field, and it looks like it is going to be this menacing Siphoner as well as the Rekindling Phoenix, and it looks like we might be lighting up quite a block there. Just a double on the Glint Sleeve Siphoner. One of these is going to trade off with it. Now, they are 1/1s created by the Caracal, but it also gives other cats you control +1/+1.
Yeah, and so he has to double block because of the menace, but double blocking is actually quite nice for Daniel Wong here because those cat tokens have lifelink. And in double blocking, Daniel Wong is going to gain 4 off that interaction, which will kind of break even with the Phoenix that's breaking in there.
So really it ends up just being a swing that it was trading a Glint Sleeve Siphoner and a cat, but actual no progression on the life totals.
Correct.
Nicol Bolas in hand. That's going to come down, discard a card. Is that going to be enough, though? It's going to be a flyer on the battlefield contending against that Shalai, Voice of Plenty.
And now, Daniel Wong's going to be in a situation where he absolutely needs to clean up this board to survive. These flyers are really large. He has a Settle the Wreckage that's in his hand, but he's not sure if that's going to be able to resolve. He knows that his opponent has access to Commit to Memory, and, in a post-boarded situation, his opponent could definitely have access to things like Negate or even something like Spell Pierce.
He does also have a Fumigate in hand, but that does not line up well at all against this Rekindling Phoenix.
No, yeah, with your opponent having a Planeswalker on the battlefield and a Rekindling Phoenix, you really don't want to be casting a card like Fumigate and leaving yourself with nothing on the battlefield. Maybe if you had a Teferi already, but he doesn't.
Pride Sovereign is the draw for the turn. Could go ahead and throw that one down. It would be a 4/4. And it could keep making some more of those cats. Actually, it would be a 5/5 because of the, and it would have lifelink because of the Caracal. Looks like we do also have a Gift of Paradise. That would throw Daniel Wong back up to 12 life, but a lot of pressure there and needs to make those considerations, like you said, to actually defend himself. Settle the Wreckage, probably a card that he's looking to end up holding on to. Tapped land coming down. If he does go for that Gift of Paradise, then he ends up with only 3 mana remaining. He would not be able to cast that Settle the Wreckage, and he's just going to pass the turn back. Same situation with the Pride Sovereign. That'd be 2 mana, only left with 3. So it's 5 mana up. If you are Tamblin, you've got to be reading Settle the Wreckage.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to be Mitchell Tamblin and to not smell Settle the Wreckage from 1,000 miles away right now.
There's the attack in with only the Nicol Bolas, the Ravager, really forcing the interaction. That we have got Settle the Wreckage coming down for just the singular card, and we are left with the Rekindling Phoenix. One thing that I like here is that Tamblin did consider attacking with the Phoenix, and I saw him sort of realign which one he wanted to attack with, and I wonder if that was a consideration of the possibility of both Settle the Wreckage and Fumigate, because if the Rekindling Phoenix got hit by that Settle the Wreckage, then the Fumigate would actually really cleanly answer this board.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Now he's tapped out. Now he has enough threats on the battlefield that I imagine Daniel Wong's just going to have to fire off this Fumigate.
But then it'll be the 4/3 that just jumps back into the fray. It would have haste, so it'd be attacking just the same. Now, it means that there's 5 other creatures that are not attacking you, but still a difficult situation.
Yeah, so Daniel Wong probably attacking with just this cat token to Liliana because it will gain him 2 life as opposed to the 1 life that he would gain off it from the Fumigate. The Fumigate going to gain him quite a bit of life here. 6 creatures on the opposing side of the battlefield. Now 1 on his.
There's Fumigate. Destroy all creatures on the battlefield. Gain 1 life for each of them. That is going to end up being 7. So I think Daniel Wong is going to go back up to 17, which means that in addition to the fact that this Rekindling Phoenix is back, it does have haste, but previously Daniel Wong was only 2 swings away from a fatal blow, and now there's the 4/3. It's got a little bit more work. It's actually going to require 5 swings with nothing else on the battlefield.
Yeah, and with a Liliana minus targeting a Rekindling Phoenix and a Nicol Bolas the Ravager out of Mitchell Tamblin's hand, Daniel Wong still in a very, very rough situation this game.
Discards that Gift of Paradise. He's got the Leonin War Leader, and we are really running short on time. This could be a situation. Right now Tamblin's doing exactly what he needs to at least win this game. The big question becomes Game 3. Is there even the potential for either one of these players to make it happen in the remaining 2 minutes and those 5 turns? It seems slim to me.
And Mitchell, I like this a lot. He actually chose to reanimate the Glint Sleeve Siphoner here with Liliana's Death's Majesty. This is going to provide him with a card advantage engine, and he's hoping to find something like Commit to Memory to protect what he has in play.
And it looks like Daniel Wong is just going to pick him up. He has accepted his defeat, and we are going to really quickly try and jump ahead into a Game 3. Both players shuffling up furiously. They're on the clock.
Yeah, I mean, this could very easily be a draw, and it's almost more likely than not that it is going to end up being a draw here. Daniel Wong there fighting through his triple sleeve deck to shuffle it fast enough, throws it down on the table, present it to his opponent.
There's something kind of beautiful about the fact that the last 2 undefeated players go up against each other finally, and they both walk away from the match still undefeated.
Yeah. They're still the last undefeated match in the room.
And they won't be able to play next round.
Well, that's true. All right, we got to look down at the match. Let's see what's going on.
All right, so it's going to be a Pride Sovereign coming on down. It's going to be a 2/2. It can exert itself, but wait, a Doomfall is going to spell DOOM. and eliminate it from the field. Leonin War Leader comes on down. Chandra comes down, eliminates that one. We are watching some speed magic. It is question, then answer. Regal Caracol goes back. And do we have something else from Mitchell Tamblyn here? Maybe in the form of does he have Sweltering Suns, or was that the other deck that we saw this round?
Mitchell Tamblyn has, he had Sweltering Suns in Game 1. I don't know if he'll still have it here. He definitely did not re-sideboard going into Game 3 with the time constraint there. I may have seen a Bantu's Last Reckoning at one point or another.
Yes, we did see that in the last game. It got hit by the Liliana into the graveyard. So, Regal Caracol and Commit to Memory here, the last remaining cards. It was a duress that took one of those. It's 2 copies of the same card, so we know which one it's going to hit. Another copy of Regal Caracol comes down to the battlefield. It's Liliana and Chandra looking down a field of cats. 2 more of these cats coming down. They've got priorities. That's going to be a swing in with a 4/4 lifelinking cat and 2 3/3s. Otherwise, we've got 2 more cats in waiting alongside another copy of this Regal Caracol. This is the aggressive start that Daniel Wong was looking for. Now the question is, does 3 combat steps equal enough? Or, interestingly enough, his deck is actually capable of maybe taking more than his fair share of the extra turns if he can end up with the mana required, because he could actually put himself up to the 7 mana and a Nexus of Fate. It's 5 turns once the timer hits 0, but it doesn't say who has to be the one taking them.
That's true. Nexus of Fate could give Daniel Wong additional turns in that 5-turn cycle. This one's looking really good for Daniel. But the problem is that you look up there at the clock. There's no time left. This is turn 0, so we're about to see turn 1 here for Mitchell. I'm not, and that means that Daniel Wong is only going to have 2 additional turns to close this game.
And that means the Nexus of Fate not really an option.
Yeah,
he could take the 5th turn.
Oh, he could take the 5th turn. That's true. If he goes land, he could take the 5th turn. And right now, he has, he has no power on the battlefield.
Oh no, the Bantu's Last Reckoning. This
is a draw.
The cats are gone. They have been swept away.
Oh my goodness! We saw a lot of cats die right there. That was brutal.
Oh my goodness. It's like Bantu showed up and just sprayed them all with a hose and they scattered to the wind.
I'm upset. It's like those sad animal videos I see in my social media feeds.
Oh goodness. So now it is just Liliana, Glintsleeve Siphoner up against the 3 cats that remain. Boy, that is a lot of Regal Caracols that were able to come down to the battlefield. Royal cats, just like the good old days.
Yeah.
Oh man, so we've
cats are special animals.
They're great.
Worthy of praise.
Yeah. They're so nice, or mean. Either one. They tend to mix up a little bit. I guess I've had a mixed relationship. Looks like we might just be accepting the inevitable here. We're going to go ahead and see what happens. We're in turns right now into turn 3, and I think the players right now are just discussing it. Is this possible for us to get out of? 1 player at 20, 1 player at 30, and only 2 remaining turns following this one. It's going to be the land that comes down to the battlefield, but what options are there? They don't see any. Oh, man. It's going to be just destroy all non-zombie creatures and attack for 2. That was the last ability of Liliana Death's Majesty. We're into the 5th turn, and I imagine that we're not going to see a Banefire for 26 this turn.
Seems unlikely to me.
It's going to be the last play of the game here. You're on camera. Enjoy it,
Yeah.
Get this Phoenix on screen one more time. Looks like we're going to commit to memory that one. Much like I will do with this match.
Yes, I will also commit this match to memory. Game 1 was a pleasure to behold. I mean, I think that was one of the best games I've seen all weekend.
It was a rumble.
Yeah, at no point did it seem like either player was, just in absolute control, and it lasted for over 30 minutes.
All right, well, here in round 11, 2 undefeated players approach each other, and they are going to leave the table both technically undefeated. They're both going to walk away with a draw in this. So Mitchell Tamblyn going to 10-0-1. Daniel Wong 9-0-2.
Yeah, I mean, if he picks up 1 more draw, 3 draws is a win, right?
That's true. That's true. All right, well, we are going to have some more Magic for you coming up right after this.